June 29, 1958, Brazil and Sweden met in the World Cup final, as Sweden being the host nation. Brazil, for the second time in its history, could get into it after 8 years from the Uruguayan miracle in the Maracanã, an event that left Brazilians with a great feeling of defeat and helplessness in its own home. Now the South American football team had another chance to make its first star come true. This time, there was a big difference in Brazil's squad. A 17-year-old with the name of Edison Arantes do Nascimento, who is announced as the biggest surprise of the tournament, and that it would soon prove to be true and even more. Brazil was in good shape with players like Garrincha, Verve and Didi, so they wanted to take advantage of it to dominate in the game. Brazil's path to reach the final isn't a mystery for anyone. It was assigned to the fourth group of the round of 16, in which were the Soviet Union, England and Austria. This football chapter of Brazil started on June 8, 1958. The Canarina faces the Austrian team with their superiority. Austria couldn't do so much to stop those 2 goals in the first half by Altafani, and an extra one by Milton Santos at minute 87, leaving the final score 3 goals in favor of the South Americans, earning by this way their first 2 points. Their second visit was in the city of Gothenburg, where they faced the British in what would become the first World Cup game to be goalless till that date. That draw earned them 1 more point to be closer to the quarterfinals. Before they get there, Brazil should face the Soviet Union, which had drawn 2-2 with England and won against Austria. That wasn't a big problem for the Brazilian team, which, with a double from the striker Verve, gave his country another chance to achieve their dream by passing to the next phase. With Brazil as group leader, who ended up with 5 points won, the next obstacle was Wales, a country that was its first participation in the history of the tournament. June 19, 1958 was the date when that young boy started his history in the World Cups, and people around the whole world started to know him as Pelé, or Ori. The match started, and after a first half time without goals, Pelé made his debut as a goalscorer in the cup by getting the only goal of all the game. His country was now in the semi-finals, and they will be playing against France, a game that would end up being remembered as one of the Pelé's greatest performances in his entire career at the tournament. On June 24, Brazil was one small step to reach glory. They could not fail again. His opponent, France, was one of the favorites to win the cup after they defeated Paraguay 7-3, lost with Yugoslavia 3-2, won Scotland by 2-1, and beat Northern Ireland by 4-0, with the French player Fontaine as a figure of the team, being the top scorer of the entire tournament with a total of 13 goals in 6 games. But unfortunately for the French, no power on earth could stop what Pelé did in that field that day. As the match started, the first goal was for Brazil by Verve at the 2nd minute. After a couple of minutes, Fontaine tied the score as expected for his nation. That did not scare Brazil, who at 39 minutes, Didi gave his team the advantage to finally let Pelé show his quality with the ball at his feet and leave everyone amazed with his 3 goals in a row, thus leaving the score 5-2. Brazil was in the World Cup final for the 2nd time, now against the European host country. Brazil has won 5 World Cup finals, in which 4 of them were absolutely superior to their rivals. This was one, and the first one of them. This was the first final dispute between a European nation and a nation from the Americas. Brazil would become the only nation on the American continent to be champions on European land in history. The Roussana Stadium was the place where the match took place. The match began. After only 4 minutes, Sweden scored first. Lidholm, Sweden's captain, was the one who did it. Just 5 minutes later, Brazil tied the score thanks to Verve, who also just scored another one at 32 minutes, turning the score 2-1 in favor of the Verde Amarela team. Then Pelé wasn't willing not to score a goal in such a historic match for his country, so just after 10 minutes in the second half, that little boy showed his world class to the entire world, making his first goal in a World Cup final and increasing his team's advantage. Zagallo was the one who gave the 3rd one to Brazil. Sweden tried to fight back, getting another goal, but they couldn't solve what was already written. Pelé, with his last chance, didn't fail in scoring the 5th and last goal of the match. This victory transcended football history. Brazil began his legend by getting his first star, a tale of a team that had resilience, courage and love to their Jogo Bonito, and a tribute for one of the greatest of all time. This was just the beginning of his legend.